Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. This is Better Off Dead College Football Week 9 edition. Is it already Week 9? Holy shit. Looks like we're about to have a 3-1 day tonight with the NBA, with, of course, the only loser being my Boston Celtics, who can kiss my ass. After they were winning by 8 at the end of the first quarter, they decided to, I believe, allow the Knicks to put up a 42-14 second quarter, I think is what it was. And then the Celtics almost came back, kind of. I don't think they ever got back within the number, but I think they cut it to like 8. And I'm like, are they actually going to come back? No, of course not. But I believe the Pistons at least covered. I think they might have won outright, actually. The Pistons, that game went into, did it go into overtime? I don't know. Maybe they didn't win outright. I don't fucking know. They covered, though. And I'm pretty sure we're about to get the Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers to come home. So, and I was correct about the Brooklyn Nets covering, by the way, which I did not add to my card. But NBA, we're going to be off to a 5-1 start, baby. So that's pretty good. Brittany, what's up? Oh, yes, ma'am. I appreciate all the sentiment, all the positive comments. Thank you. I didn't think I did that well on it, to be honest. But I'll keep putting out those covers. Covered in Uke is my ukulele channel on YouTube. This is sports betting, so if you're interested in sports betting, you can hang around. But thank you. I'm glad people liked that one. It was I thought it was like in the realm of Halloween enough that I was gonna do it. I was like, well, it's about death and whatever, like, why not? Hold on, I gotta check my audio settings here, and then I'm gonna get into the college football here, and we'll see if my regulars start showing up. All right, yeah. Oh, it's not your bad. I mean, hang out, why not, if you're interested in it. I'm gonna take my headphones off, cool off my ears here. My audio seems good enough. I don't know. People do not come to this show for quality. And I was also going to mention the World Series game was just insane, dude. Like, Snell was pitching really well, and then he just kind of lost it. Maybe they left him in a little bit too long. He loaded the bases, or maybe they actually took him out too early because he loaded the bases. Maybe he would have been able to get out of that with less damage. Went from a 2-0 Dodger lead in the 4th inning to them being down, I think, 9-2 by the end of the 6th inning or something like that. That was crazy. Dodgers 5. I think they had. What was it? I think it was a 5-run inning. Did I get that math right? No, I don't think I did. Maybe it was a 7-run inning. That is what it was. Whatever it was. It might have been even worse than that. It might have been a 9-run inning, actually, because I just stopped watching it. And the game wound up going over. So I was wrong about everything in that game, but I did not give out any plays on that, and that is why I did not have a good feeling for that. Obviously, I never get anything wrong on this show. College football, I'm going to give out 4 plays on tomorrow's card, which I probably should have just mentioned this earlier in the week because my thoughts have not changed on the college football card, or the college football board, I should say. But I was going to have these 4 plays. I was like, is anything going to get me off of these? Am I going to add any more? I thought I might add a couple more. No, I'm just going to go with these 4. I'll mention a couple other leans that I have that I think are close. Let's just, I'm going to jump right into it, man. I'm going to jump right into onto the scoreboard here. And for some reason, I think it's because on ESPN, I have BC listed as one of my favorite teams. They throw them at the top, even though it's a night game for them. Oh, let's talk about BC. They're having such a good season. They're going to be at Louisville here at 7:30 on the ACC network. Louisville, 5-1 team. BC, 1-6. BC is just, they're worse than we thought that they were. They're usually at least a decently competitive team. Not this year. Louisville is actually taking the money as well. They're up from a 23-point favorite to a 25-point favorite here. 70% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on Louisville. I don't really agree with that, though. Like, I would lean to taking the points with BC in this one because Louisville, of course, they're in a huge letdown spot. They're coming off 2 big games, actually, although I think they did have a bye in between the two. Losing to Virginia in double overtime, which really you could take that game either way because they were the favorite. And, of course, I gave out a losing play on Louisville in that one where I think they did well enough to win that game. It was just bad mistakes at various points in the game. They won the game statistically, lost the game on the scoreboard, but they bounced back in a great way for us because I gave out Louisville on the show at plus 13.5, and they pulled off the outright upset at Miami last Friday night. Huge win in primetime, and now they're coming off of that game. They come back home and they get to face Boston College. Like, I just don't see any reason why Louisville's going to really show up with a lot of focus here. And, man, maybe BC will. When you're a team that's out of it like BC is at this point, I mean, the only games you're going to show up for are going to be games against good teams, ranked opponents. Maybe this will be a game where they'll show up and actually play with some focus at all. I mean, they're coming off losing to UConn, which is just, I mean, even for BC, that's a low point. I think UConn, they're having a decent season, but they're still like, they're an independent. I mean, they're not one of these power conference teams. They're kind of a little brother of New England. So I think UConn did step up their level of play for that. But man, that was a bad game for BC. And BC, I don't even know what's going on with their quarterback situation. It looks like they either switched quarterbacks or maybe Lonergan just sucks so bad that they decided to, well, either Lonergan got hurt or they switched quarterbacks, I should say. But it was such a bad performance from BC. I would lean to taking the points with BC in this one. I just don't see why you would lay the points with Louisville in this one, even though, yes, I know BC is really, really bad, but I just figured I would talk about that because it is BC. It's at the top of the college football scoreboard here just because ESPN does that. UCLA is at number 2, Indiana. This is the actual noon slate on Fox. Indiana's still an undefeated team. UCLA has won 3 games in a row now. Firing their coach seems to have sparked the team. They pulled off that ridiculous upset of Penn State, who hasn't won a game since losing to Oregon. So Penn State just went completely off the rails. UCLA followed that up with a road upset win of Michigan State and then a home win against Maryland, which is less crazy because Maryland having to travel to the Pacific Coast. Not really unexpected that UCLA would be able to win that game. Now UCLA has to travel again. I mean, it looks like a lot of travel for UCLA recently, man. I mean, going back to September 27th, they had to go to Northwestern, so the Chicago area. Then they had to go all the way back to the Pacific Coast, upset Penn State, fly back out to Michigan State, to East Lansing. No time off in between any of these games either. Then come back home again to Maryland. Now they're going back out to Indiana. I mean, all this travel, I don't really think this is a very good spot for UCLA, even though, yeah, I mean, they'll probably show up with focus. What's ridiculous is that UCLA has 1 loss in the Big Ten right now. Like, they could actually make the Big Ten championship game. Highly unlikely, but technically possible. They're not going to not be focused in this game, but the travel spot just looks really bad for them to me. Whereas Indiana, I mean, they're just staying at home. They're off of a win over Michigan State that was just expected. So I would actually probably lean towards laying the points in this one with Indiana. UCLA actually has been hyped up enough recently that they're a public underdog here. Makes no sense to me. I don't understand why the public wouldn't still be on this undefeated Indiana team that has a really good offense. But 62% of the tickets, only 52% of the cash on the UCLA side taking the points. Indiana is up from 24 to 26 as a favorite here. So if you like Indiana, you lost a little bit of value on that, with 24 being a somewhat key number there. I would still lay it if I was going to play that game. I don't tend to lay favorites of that magnitude anyway, but just some quick thoughts on that one. Also at noon, ESPN, number 7, undefeated Georgia Tech against Syracuse. By the way, I don't think Indiana is actually the second best team in the country. I don't think Georgia Tech is actually the 7th best team in the country, but they're both undefeated, so the rankings makers are just going to elevate them up, man. Syracuse was one of the losses for me on my show last week. It was a closer game than it looked on the scoreboard, man, against Pitt. Syracuse actually had a 2-point conversion attempt to try to cut the game to 8 with not that much time left in the game. They missed the 2-point conversion, and then Pitt wound up getting another touchdown at the end of it, which completely flipped the game to wind up being a 17-point loss as, what were they, a 10, 11-point, was it a 10-point underdog? I forget, whatever it was. I think it was 10. Syracuse had chances to cover that, man. I mean, neither team put up a lot of offense in the game. Pitt, based on their statistics, probably should not have scored 30 in the game. The yardage difference was not that much different between the two. So Syracuse did play better than it looked on the scoreboard. With a team like Syracuse, I mean, they're not really going anywhere this year. I guess they're still potentially looking to maybe become bowl eligible. They need to win 3 of their remaining games, which is possible when they have home games against UNC and BC left. If you assume those are both going to be wins because both of those teams suck, then they just need to get one other win. But they have 3 really difficult road games. Maybe they will show up, though. I mean, they're probably going to show up and at least try against a team that's ranked 7th like Georgia Tech is. Georgia Tech, I mean, they kind of have bigger fish to fry, to be honest. I mean, this is a lesser opponent kind of sandwiched in here between Duke and North Carolina State. So a bit of a North Carolina sandwich there. I don't know if it matters that much for Georgia Tech. It's not like the most horrendous spot, but I do think that both of these teams had kind of misleading results last week at the very least. Or I think Syracuse was better than they looked on the scoreboard. Duke, I think Georgia Tech, I think was actually not as good as they looked on the scoreboard. I thought Duke actually had a decent shot to win this game, and Duke did outgain Georgia Tech in this game by close to 70 yards in the game. They did lose the turnover battle, but only by 1. Didn't really see the game, so I don't know exactly what wound up happening. I think Duke did have chances to maybe win that game. Yeah, they were down 3 in the fourth quarter. It was actually tied going into the fourth quarter, and then they kind of let it up a little bit right towards the end there. So I would lean to taking the points with Syracuse in this one. Money looks like it's coming in on Georgia Tech to some extent. 56% of the tickets, 68% of the cash on them, although the line looks like it dropped from 17.5 to 17. 17 being a key number. That is not an insignificant move, really, losing that hook on the 17 there. Yeah, I don't have many other thoughts on that. It's not a strong opinion by any means on that one, but slightly into taking the points with Syracuse. Also at noon, ABC. I don't know which game is College Game Day. As I always say, I never do. This is Ole Miss at Oklahoma. Number 8, Ole Miss. 13, Oklahoma. I actually think the rankings for these two teams are basically flipped. I don't think Ole Miss is as good as the 8th team in the country. I think Oklahoma might be a little bit better than the 13th ranked team in the country, and the odds makers are telling you basically that is the case by lining Oklahoma as the favorite here and giving them more than just home field advantage here. They're up from 4 to 5 here on the line. 71% of the tickets are coming in on Ole Miss, so this is one of those games where the public sees it. They see the higher-ranked team being lined as an underdog, and they think there's value on the underdog here, especially because it's Ole Miss. It's a Lane Kiffin offense. The public loves offense like that. So the public's just going to jump all over that, and they are. 71% of the tickets, only 62% of the cash, though, so the bigger money does seem like it's on Oklahoma, and there's a reverse line movement coming in, moving Oklahoma up. Oklahoma, definitely the better defensive team in this one, and I do tend to lean towards the better defense more often than I lean towards the better offense. Oklahoma's offense isn't exactly bad, though. They did have that injury to their quarterback, Mateer, and he came back and had kind of a lackluster performance, I think, when he first came back. So that was against Texas, though. So Texas, they're an elite defense. You can say what you want about their offense. Their offense is pretty lousy, really, but Texas is very, very good defensively. So I'm not going to really dock Mateer that much or knock him. Either one. I'm not going to dock or knock him. Maybe I'll caulk him. I don't know. I'm not going to just knock him too much for that performance against Texas. Plus, it was his first game back from injury, which was part of the handicap on that one. I gave out Texas as a play in that game. That was a winner on the show. Oklahoma bounced back nicely with a nice defensive performance last week at South Carolina. It was only Oklahoma's second road game of the season, and they still played pretty well. Mateer didn't do that much offensively. Didn't really need to, though. Third game back, I think you're going to get a better performance out of Mateer here, especially because Oklahoma's going to have to score some points to beat Ole Miss here. And Ole Miss isn't really as good defensively. I don't think they're as good defensively as either Texas or South Carolina, to be honest. I also think the spot is better for Oklahoma because they're coming off kind of an easy performance last week. Whereas Ole Miss, I think the spot is actually pretty bad. So this is actually close to a play for me. I was very close to giving out a play on Oklahoma. I would lay the points with Oklahoma in this one. Ole Miss, they're coming off their first loss of the season. And I talk about this when a team takes their first loss of the season, that game can hang them over into the next game, man, because that kind of throws them off. It's like a complete momentum stopper. They're not used to losing. And it happened against Georgia. And not only did it happen against Georgia, but Ole Miss was winning that game late in the game, and Georgia just made a late run to not only win, but cover the spread in that one. Brutal loss for Ole Miss in that one, man. And now they have to play a second straight road game, and it's only their third road game of the season. And in their two road games, they only beat Kentucky by 7, and they lost to Georgia last time out. So they've been significantly worse on the road, too. And looking at their schedule, they've had a pretty weak schedule. Their only good win, really, is the one against LSU. That is their only good win. Against LSU at home, they beat them by 5 at home. Not totally sold on Ole Miss here, man. Oklahoma has faced a more difficult schedule. They've faced Michigan, Auburn, which I think is an underrated team, Texas. So they've faced some stronger opponents to some extent here. Yeah, I'm going to lean to Oklahoma in this one, man. Ole Miss, they're not going to be unfocused for a game against Oklahoma, but, I think maybe they will actually lack focus a little bit just because I think that last game kind of derailed them a little bit, to be honest. So I like the Oklahoma side in this one for sure. Nate, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Hell yeah. Dude, I'm definitely tempted, to be honest, to give out a play on Oklahoma here. I'm thinking about it strongly right now. Do we want 5 plays here? I don't know. Just the way that Ole Miss lost that game was like so brutal, dude. Man, these types of games they like all hit last week. Like they've been hitting like throughout the season, man. The lesser ranked team when they're a favorite, it seems like they win like every single time pretty much. They cover the spread almost every time. Man, it's tough. I'm very close to this one. I kind of want to do it. You like Mateer? Yeah, he's pretty good. I don't know what to think about Ole Miss's quarterbacks, to be honest. Chambliss wasn't even their starting quarterback to start the season. It was Simmons. You know what? Let's do it. Let's add one more play here. We're going to go with Oklahoma on the fly here. I won't add any more than this, I don't think, but I do have a couple other leans that I think are pretty strong. We're going to wind up with 5 plays here. How about this? Oklahoma, let me just look real quick here. Looks like you can lay, the number's kind of all over the place here. It's basically 5 everywhere. Although, let me see, how much value are we giving up if we do play this? It went from 4 through the 4.5 to 5. It's not that much of a difference, really. If you can find a better number, go ahead. But yeah, we'll go with Oklahoma -5. Extra bet there on the fly. There you go. I'm going to move that one up to the top there for now in my banners here. There you go. Oklahoma will be a play. We'll elevate it, man. We'll elevate it to a play. But it'll be my weakest of the 5. So that means it's going to be one of the easier wins, right? Hopefully. Sometimes when I add a play like that, it actually just loses. All right, what else we got? We're still in the noon slate here. I'm talking about way too many of these games, man, but most of them are pretty interesting. Virginia at North Carolina. Virginia's undefeated in the ACC. They're ranked 16th in the country. They're a one-loss team, and their only loss, they probably could have won that game against NC State. North Carolina doesn't have a win in the ACC. Is that right? And, I mean, they just haven't been good, man. I don't know what else to say. I mean, Bill Belichick seems like he's actually made the team worse. They were without Gio Lopez in a couple other games. North Carolina was their quarterback. He is back, I think, because he played last week, but they had to go out to the Pacific Coast and play a primetime game. It does mean they have an extra day off, because they played on Friday last week. But they played tough as an underdog, man. They actually played pretty well, all things considering, against Cal. It was not really a misleading result in that one. They only lost by 3. I think they might have actually outgained Cal in the game, or statistically it was at least close. I don't know. I'd have to dig into it more. But they did have to fly cross country, and now they're having to fly back. So not really the easiest thing to do, especially for a team that's not really used to doing that, and almost pulled off an upset. So there are some things that I don't like about North Carolina in this spot. Virginia's coming off a pretty ugly game against Washington State, man, where Virginia, they had gone into a bye after pulling off an upset of Louisville, so it was not a very good spot for Virginia. It was a bad spot for both teams, Virginia and Washington State. Last week, Washington State was coming up only losing by 3 to Ole Miss as like a 30-something point underdog. So both teams really didn't line up well in this game. And Washington State came close to Virginia in this one, man. Virginia only won by 2 as a double-digit favorite here. I think they were like a 16, 17-point favorite or something like that here. So Virginia didn't play well. So I actually think the spot is a little bit better for Virginia, even though they haven't been good on the road, though. They lost to NC State, like I said, and then the Louisville game they probably should have lost. So the Louisville's pretty good. So Virginia, I mean, maybe they're not as good as their ranking looks at this point. They haven't exactly been totally tested yet. I mean, their win over Florida State is starting to look worse and worse as Florida State doesn't look that good. So, but it was a nice win for us on the show, man, when everybody thought Florida State was awesome. So this is a tough handicap, man. I think I do lean to Virginia slightly in this one, though, with the North Carolina travel spot. North Carolina almost pulling off an upset last week. Virginia almost losing as a favorite. It seems like the spot is more correct for Virginia here. The money seems to agree with it as they're up from a 9 to a 10.5 point favorite, which really says more about how bad North Carolina is than how good Virginia is. 83% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on Virginia. If you do like them, you've lost some value there because it has gone through that key number of 10 there. But that is the way that I would lean in that game, although they are also public. But it looks like the public and the professionals are all on that. We're still in the noon slate here. We got number 18, South Florida, undefeated in the American Conference, 6-1 overall against 6-1 Memphis, who was ranked until they just shit the bed last week. I thought both of these teams were in bad spots last week, and South Florida dominated, and Memphis was awful. But you know that when that's the case, I actually want to lean to the team that was awful in the previous game. So I lean towards Memphis in this one. I think South Florida is overrated for one thing. I mean, I think both of these teams are not like worthy of being ranked in the top 25. But South Florida, I mean, they do keep rolling. Everybody remembers their big wins at the beginning of the season against Boise, but Boise just made a ton of mistakes. It was an unfamiliar travel spot for them. Florida, we know Florida's been way up and down, kind of a mess there. Other than that, South Florida, their only other test was Miami, and Miami blew them out, which was a win for us on the show there. Since then, South Florida's just been rolling through teams that aren't that good, except they did put up a good performance against North Texas, who, by the way, North Texas, their quarterback tonight, Mestamaker, he set a new record for quarterback passing yards in a single game in college football, I think, or in FBS or whatever. I think he had like 610 yards or something tonight against Charlotte. That North Texas offense is good. Their defense is not. South Florida was able to just light them up. And then South Florida, I thought they were in a sandwich spot last week, and they still just easily beat FAU last week. So it's not like it was a difficult game or anything like that, but I do think South Florida might look a little bit too good after that game, whereas Memphis, they were also in a bad spot last week, which I pointed out
on the show last week, and they actually took an outright loss. Memphis had gone into a bye, and I think that bye just really stopped their momentum. And Memphis had to go to UAB last week. They lost the game outright as like 21-something point favorite in that game, something like that. But part of the reason they lost is because Lewis was injured in the game. So Brendan Lewis, I think is his name. He was on Nevada last year. He's Memphis's quarterback this year. He got hurt in the game, so maybe they would have been able to pull out a win if he didn't go down. They had to bring in Hill as a backup quarterback there. So if you're going to look, if you're looking at this game here, you got to see what's going to happen with the quarterback situation for Memphis. But either way, I think I still like Memphis here because you're either going to get Lewis is going to come back, and it's not going to be a reverse injured player spot because Lewis played last week. He just got hurt during the game last week. So there's not going to be any, like, it's going to just be, you know, you'll still have that continuity with Lewis being there if he does just play in this game. But if he doesn't, and it's Hill's first start, then you'll get a little bit of extra value on Memphis if that's the case. So it'll be the injured player spot. And you know Memphis is going to show up and play hard if Lewis is out. They're going to play hard anyway, even if he's not out. So I think either way, Memphis is actually the side that I would lean to in this game. Again, they lost to UAB. Just ridiculous. One thing I forgot to mention that maybe should have elevated UAB to a play last week, I keep missing the fired coach spot, man. UAB was in a fired coach spot last week. They fired Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer, former NFL quarterback and Super Bowl winning quarterback with the most elite defense of all time of the Baltimore Ravens in 2000 or whatever. Dilfer was UAB's coach, and they fired him. Things were not going well, and UAB played well for the interim coach there. And I think Memphis, they were coming out of that momentum halting bye, and they had this big game up next, so it was a bad spot for Memphis as well. Long story short, although I like to give you all my analysis, man, maybe it's too detailed, but I like Memphis in this one. It looks like Lewis might not be playing because South Florida's up from a 3.5-point favorite to a 6-point favorite now, and I don't think that move was like the market doing it, even though South Florida is public, which you would expect them to be. 66% of the tickets on them, only 58% of the cash. So the bigger money seems to be fading South Florida here. But I think so that's kind of why I think that the line move of 3 points, I mean, if you have the bigger money coming in basically towards Memphis, the line's not going to move 2.5 points towards South Florida. So I think that indicates that Memphis is going to be going with their backup quarterback here, it looks like right now at least. But it'll be the injured player spot, so I do think you get extra value on that. I would take Memphis plus the points in that one if I was going to do it. I don't think it'll get to that key number 7 or anything like that, but you'll be able to get 6 on it. So that would be my lean in that one. Alabama, South Carolina, that's going to be one of my plays, so we're going to skip it for now. That's actually, these next 3 are all plays for me. Missouri, Vandy, and BYU, Iowa State. So we're running through it, man. Those are going to be plays for me, all 3 of those. Big Ten Network at 3:30 p.m. Number 23, Illinois, who I still don't think is worthy of being ranked at all, against Washington, who actually has the same record at 5-2. Illinois just has the bigger name, and maybe they face a little bit more of a difficult schedule, but maybe not really. I mean, Washington is at least having to travel cross-country as a Pacific Coast team in the stupid Big Ten. How does this game set up? This game, I just don't even know how to approach this game, really. Illinois, I believe they're coming out of a bye. Yeah, they went into the bye on a loss to Ohio State, so I think the bye did come at a decent time for Illinois. They can just work things out in the bye, just, forget about that loss to Ohio State, fix some things, come back out here and play, but they do have to travel to the Pacific Coast, and they have not gone further west than, they haven't gone west at all from Illinois. The furthest west they've been this year is in Illinois. So, because they've only gone to Indiana, and they went east to Duke, and then they played 2 games in Indiana against Indiana and Purdue. So it is a weird travel spot for Illinois. The bye might help with that a little bit because they can get out there early if they want to. I don't know if they did, but the bye at least does help with Pacific Coast travel spot at the very least, and it's at least not a late game, so it won't totally mess with their biological clock to that extent. But it is still an unfamiliar environment having to go to Washington. Washington is coming off a pretty big game, though, I believe. They played Michigan last week, so they did not have last week off. They had a pretty like physical battle, I think, against Michigan last week. Two pretty decent defenses going at it in that game. Had to go to the Big House, so they're coming off that game, and they're having to travel from that back to the Pacific Coast with no time off. So the spot does look better for Illinois to me. It's just a matter of how are they going to perform on the Pacific Coast, and the money is not agreeing with Illinois here. The money's actually coming in on Washington. I don't really agree with that. Washington's down from 5.5 to 3.5 here, though, so there was a move against them. But 52% of the tickets are on Illinois and 58% of the cash on Washington. Usually when you see the cash percentage on one side, you'll see the you'll see the line moving in that same direction. But in this case, that's not the case. So I don't know if there's maybe an injury going on. Washington has had the line go down on them. So the line's going down on them. That's hot. Let me see here. It doesn't look like there's a quarterback injury, right? Let me see here. No, Williams Jr. played the whole game last week. He just didn't have a great game. So, yeah, I don't know what to think. And Washington did have a bunch of turnovers in that game, it looks like, too. So I guess Washington was a little bit better than it looked last week. But I still think with Illinois with the bye, I would slightly lean towards Illinois there getting the points. But I don't like the fact that it's just an unfamiliar location for them to have to be going to. ESPNU has Oklahoma State, who hasn't really done that much better since firing Gundy. They're up against Texas Tech, number 14 Texas Tech, who took their first loss. I'm going to slightly lean against Texas Tech here. Texas Tech is still without Morton, their quarterback. He missed last week. He got injured, I think, 2 weeks ago. They used Hammond last week, a quarterback against Arizona State. They're going to use him again this week, it looks like. It is a downgrade from Morton, and Texas Tech did take their first loss in that game against Arizona State last week. And I mentioned it tonight already. I talk about it every time it comes up. When a team loses, when they have their first loss of the season, it can hang them over a little bit, and they could do poorly in the next game as well because it just stops their momentum. They're not really used to losing. Texas Tech, really good offense, but less so with Hammond in there. Still don't really know what to think about this Texas Tech team, man. They had that one big win on the road against Utah. Other than that, they have not had a difficult schedule so far, so I still don't really know what to think. Their second best team that they faced was Arizona State, and they lost that one outright, although it was of course, with their backup quarterback. That was actually in the injured player spot, too. So now this is going to be the second game with the injured quarterback. And when that happens, I also tend to look to go against that team after they step up their level of play. That first game with their quarterback out, they tend to take a little bit of a step back the next game. And they do have Kansas State and then BYU up after this. So they might look past Oklahoma State here a little bit, man. So I will lean slightly towards Oklahoma State getting all these points. They're getting a ton of points in this one. Oklahoma State got blown out again last week by Cincinnati. That was one of my survivor plays last week, was on Cincinnati. I'm still alive in both survivors, college and pro. Looking at the line in this one, Texas Tech is a massive favorite, although they've dropped a little bit from 38.5 to 37.5. 71% of the tickets, only 67% of the cash coming in on Texas Tech. So the money is indicating on the Oklahoma State side a little bit. Texas Tech, it's going to be a game where I think they're going to just get in, get out. Just go in, get the win, go a little bit vanilla. They don't have to do much to get this win. They're not going to be really trying to cover this number, in my opinion, I don't think. So I would lean to taking the points with Oklahoma State. ESPN2 at 4 p.m., Baylor at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, not a huge favorite here, even though they're ranked 21st in the country. They only have one loss. They have no Big 12 losses yet. Baylor is sitting at 4-3, but the line is kind of indicating that these two teams are almost evenly matched, or even that Baylor is the slightly better of the two teams. So the odds makers are kind of indicating that there's a little bit of a ranking mismatch, or the rankings are, not these teams are not what the rankings would tell you, I should say. So this is kind of an odds maker versus rankings disparity in this game a little bit. Cincinnati's coming off that easy win against Oklahoma State. Their most difficult opponents that they faced were Nebraska, which was their one loss at Arrowhead to start the season, and then Iowa State, who they beat at home. That was a big win for Cincinnati. But they continued winning after that. They haven't lost since week 1. This is a difficult game, though, man. They do have Utah up next, so I don't think they're going to overlook Baylor because Baylor just carries a lot of weight behind their name. But Baylor has faced a more difficult schedule so far. They beat SMU, who was ranked at the time, and SMU, not a bad team. They beat Kansas State already. They lost to Auburn, who's better than people think they are. Auburn's faced a very difficult SEC schedule. Baylor also played TCU, who's not that bad, but that's kind of the issue that I would have, where I do think Baylor may be the better of these two teams. They face a more difficult schedule, but TCU is always a big opponent for Baylor, man. It's a big Texas matchup there, and they're having to play a second straight road game. They did go into a bye after that. Or no, excuse me, they went to bye before TCU, excuse me. So this is a second straight road game here for Baylor as well, so that's somewhat of the hesitation that I would have. I slightly lean towards Baylor getting the points in this game because I do think they are a little bit undervalued right now in the market, and Cincinnati's probably a little bit overvalued. Cincinnati does have a really good offense, though. Baylor does have an offense that can pretty much match it, though. Baylor's offense is also good. But coming off that tough game against TCU, second straight road game, it's a little bit difficult to be able to get there with Baylor. The money is coming in on the Baylor side. Cincinnati dropped from 5 to 3.5. 53% of the tickets are on Cincinnati, but 73% of the cash on Baylor. So the legit money is actually coming in on Baylor here. So in agreement with my thoughts on that game, but I just don't think it's strong enough. The total is way high, too, because you have two teams that could definitely score. The total's up from 66.5 to 67. 83% of tickets, only 78% of the cash on the over in this one, though. But I could definitely see this one being fireworks. Like, if people want offense, they're probably going to want to look at this game and watch it if they just want to see a lot of offense. Will it go over that pretty high total? I don't know. But when it's a high total, it is a high total for a reason, even though it looks like the money's kind of disagreeing with the over in that one. 4:15 p.m. Eastern, SEC Network, number 22 Texas at Mississippi State, who does not have a win in the SEC yet. I think Texas is better than this number 22 ranking would tell you, man. Texas, I think they still have maybe the number one offense, or excuse me, the number one defense in the country. Certainly not the number one offense. Their offense has really struggled. Arch Manning, he's not very good. Texas's defense is elite, though. So I think Texas, like, teams that have really, really bad offense and good defense, they seem to always be undervalued, and that was the case with Texas last year, too. Texas is coming off that close call last week, which Saab and I were both on Kentucky plus the points last week. Texas was in a letdown spot, in my opinion. They were coming off that huge Red River shootout win, or Red River rivalry, which was not a shootout in that one. Low-scoring, physical battle against Oklahoma. That was a huge win. Texas almost got caught last week in another defensive game. Kentucky, pretty good defensively. So that wound up being a defensive battle. Ugly, ugly game, though. And Texas actually had to go to overtime to win that game. We almost got the outright win on Kentucky in that one. Texas, I mean, there's still only a one-loss SEC team, so they could still shoot for the SEC title game here, man. So I think Texas is going to show up. I know this is a second straight road game. Not really the easiest spot here, and it is actually a third road game in 4 weeks, which is a little bit difficult. They went to Florida, then had the Red River game, then went to Kentucky. Now they're going to Mississippi State here. They do have Vandy and then Georgia up after this, so those are also big opponents. I mean, those are ranked opponents, obviously. But I think they're going to show up focused here just because they played so ugly against Kentucky. I think when you're a favorite like that, a double-digit favorite, and you almost lose the game outright, that does serve to kind of focus you in the next game. Mississippi State, they're coming into this game off of a close call against Florida, man. They played their second straight road game, although they had a bye in between the two, but they almost were able to pull off the upset against Florida last week. I think they were like 8.5-point underdogs against Florida in that game. So you have Kentucky, who almost lost as a double-digit favorite, going up against Mississippi State, who almost won as a big underdog. So when you get a situation like that, you want to actually look towards the team that played really badly as the favorite because they're the better team. They're usually going to tend to refocus in a spot like that, whereas the team that almost pulled off the upset could be in a little bit of a hangover spot, maybe getting a little bit fatigued. So I actually do lean to Texas in this one, even though they're going to be a road favorite here. And the money is agreeing with that. They're up from 7 to 7.5 here, 53% of the cash on them. 56% of the tickets are on Mississippi State. So public actually slightly fading Texas. Public does not like these horrendous offenses, man. They never want to do it. They're not going to lay points on the road like that, but I do slightly lean to Texas in that game. I'm not even going to talk about Wisconsin, Oregon, man. There's just nothing interesting about that one. That'll probably be the only one of these that I skip, actually, so sorry, guys. Stanford and Miami. Miami's still ranked 9th in the country. Maybe that's about accurate. I mean, Miami, they're good. They weren't worthy of a number 2 ranking, but I do think Miami is going to bounce back in a big way in this game. It's just a matter of how big is the bounce back going to be. I think it's a bad spot for Stanford here, man. Stanford just pulled off a double-digit upset against Florida State last Saturday night. I think I had the game on when I was doing my NFL show, I think, and I was rooting against Florida State. That was a huge win for Stanford, man. They beat Florida State outright. And if you look at what happened in this game, Stanford did not even play well. They got outgained 444 to 293 in the game, and Florida State had no turnovers, and somehow Stanford won the game outright. Florida had a ton of penalties. Florida State, had a ton of penalties. 13 penalties. Stanford relatively clean at 5 penalties. So Stanford, they were able to get the win in this game. A little bit of a misleading win and a crazy win as 17.5-point underdogs beating a team like Florida State, who still has no wins in the ACC. Absolutely insane. Florida State might not be that much improved from last year, man, which I like it because I said that I didn't think they were going to really be that good this year still. I don't like Castellanos. Stanford getting that win is just ridiculous, and now they're having to go to the East Coast again. Look at what they've done since, back on September 20th. They went all the way to the East Coast of Virginia, back to the Pacific Coast to face San Jose State. Almost lost that game after they lost to Virginia pretty badly on the road. Bad spot. They came back home and almost lost to San Jose State, who was in, a little brother, big brother situation. Then they had a bye. Then they had to go to the Dallas area to face SMU. Lost that game. Came back home to the Pacific Coast. Beat Florida State in a massive upset. Yes, they could still become bowl eligible, so I do think that's on the radar as far as, Stanford, what motivation are they going to have here? They might still have motivation here because it is a big game. It's a big opponent against Miami. They're going to want to try to become bowl eligible if they can here, but they're having to go all the way back to the East Coast, and the only other time they played on the East Coast this year against Virginia, they lost the game by 18 points. So that's not really a good sign for Stanford. Stanford actually did a lot of traveling early in the season, too. They had to go all the way out to Hawaii, too. This has been a brutal travel schedule. Stanford might have the most, flight mileage out of any team in college football this year. I mean, it's just crazy what their travel has been. So I don't think it's a good spot. It's a letdown spot with a cross-country trip, and they're going to be having to go up against an angry Miami team that actually has an extra day off because Miami, of course, lost as a double-digit favorite to Louisville at home. I think Miami's going to be pissed off, and they're going to want to take their anger out here on somebody. So I'm going to lean to laying the points with Miami in this one, man. Although usually I do talk about how when a team takes their first loss, it can hang them over a little bit into the next game. Maybe. But I'm going to lean to laying the points. This one's close to being a play for me, actually. It's just I don't necessarily want to lay so many points that you need Miami to actually not take their foot off the gas here. I think they will be angry, but once they know that they're going to get this win, are they going to start packing it in? They might. So that's kind of the concern here. But Miami's down from a 30-point favorite to a 29-point favorite here. 66% of the tickets, 84% of the cash on Miami. Public's still slightly on Miami, but the actual money more so on Miami. Also, it's a ridiculously low total, down to 44.5. Do you want to lay almost 30 points with a total of 44.5? I don't, not particularly, but I would still lean to laying the points with Miami in this one, as ridiculous as that might sound, but I can't get there with it as far as a play. ABC, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We get Texas A&M, number 3 in the country, still undefeated against number 20 LSU here. However, the odds makers are not lining Texas A&M as that heavy of a favorite. Although they're still telling you that Texas A&M is the better team over LSU. Although I don't think Texas A&M is actually the third best team in the country. I think they're probably somewhere top 10, maybe. LSU is probably actually fairly close to that. LSU is probably, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20 is probably where LSU belongs. They're ranked 20th right now. Texas A&M is up from a 1.5-point favorite to a 2.5-point favorite here, but 55% of the tickets are on A&M, but 58% of the cash coming in on LSU. So the money is actually coming in on the LSU side. LSU is the better defense getting points, so that is something that I look at when you get the better defense as an underdog. That will be something that I will take notice of. I tend to like the better defense, especially getting points. A&M definitely has the better offense, though. And it's not like their defense is horrible, although LSU has been pretty much just a defensive team this year. Their offense, even though Nussmeier came back, they had a lot of turnover coming into the season on offense, and their offense just has not come together. Their defense has been surprisingly good, though, like way improved from the last couple of years. Pretty interesting. Although A&M, they're going to be the public team because the public wants to come in on the higher-ranked team, but also on the better offense, although they're not coming in on A&M to a ridiculous extent here. And I don't know if I even actually I don't know that I necessarily disagree with the A&M side here, to be honest. It's a second straight road game for A&M. I do get that. I know that they've only won their 2 road games by 1 and 3. They beat Notre Dame by 1, but that's a good win on the road against Notre Dame. I know A&M, I mean, they've had a fairly weak schedule so far, though Auburn's not that bad a team, and A&M actually blew them out statistically more than what you would think based on the score there. A&M last week, they had a close call, though. They were double-digit favorites, I think, against Arkansas. Is that right? No, 8.5. My mistake. But as 8.5-point favorites, Texas A&M, they almost lost this game, dude. I think they got a little bit complacent, and Arkansas was almost able to come back. Although A&M was up 10 late in the game, Arkansas cut it back to 3 with 10 seconds left. So it's not like they were really threatening to win the game, but it was still not a great performance from A&M. It is still a second straight road game, although you know they're going to get up for a game against LSU. So they will be focused. Last year, Texas A&M did beat LSU in College Station, though. That was a big win for A&M last year. So it's going to be revenge for LSU. So both these teams have motivating factors in this game. Remember, I think both teams are probably going to show up. Although usually when I see A&M, they were a big favorite and they almost lost the game, I'm usually going to want to look towards that team, A&M in this case. LSU, they're coming off a loss to Vandy. That was a big game for LSU, and they lost that game, and kind of a brutal loss. And they do have Alabama up next, although it is after a bye. That's a big game, too, although I don't think they're going to necessarily overlook A&M. But when LSU's coming off a tough loss like that, I don't know, man. It's difficult for me to actually get there with the LSU side. I have a lot of conflicting opinions on this one, man. I don't even know where I want to go here. I mean, do I go with the market read? Is the market read the deciding factor here? Say better defense getting points, more of the cash is coming in on LSU. It's a low total at 49. I guess slight lean to LSU. But, man, I mean, I think both teams are going to show up here. But if that's the case, then you kind of want to look towards the team where the side where you think there's a little bit of value. If you think you're going to get your best effort out of both teams. And I think that will be LSU here. It is going to be revenge for LSU. And even though LSU is a 2-loss team, I don't think they're completely out of it yet as far as they're overall a 2-loss team. So they might still be in the playoff picture at the very least. So I don't think it's a dream crusher scenario for LSU yet, even though they are coming off kind of a tough loss. So, yeah, very difficult handicap in that one. We have the Battle of Michigan, huge rivalry game at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Michigan ranked 25th in the country against Michigan State, who's below 500 and doesn't have a Big Ten win yet. Michigan is obviously the better team here, but Michigan State, weird things happen in this rivalry, man, where it seems like Michigan State is usually, they consider themselves to be the little brother in this rivalry, and this is one of the big games on their schedule, and they usually step up their effort for it. So when, things are not going well, even when things are not going well for Michigan State, they treat Michigan like their Super Bowl pretty much. Excuse me. Michigan, they're coming off a couple of pretty big games in a row, man, against USC and against this Washington team that's pretty underrated, I think, and under the radar here. So coming off a couple of big games here. Now they go to Michigan State. They don't have a big game up next, though, against Purdue. So it's not going to be anything I'm going to get there with, but they are coming off a couple of difficult games. Washington, going to be a difficult, defense to face. Michigan got out of there with a win in a defensive game. Michigan State just coming off another ugly loss, although it was to Indiana. I mean, Indiana way better than Michigan State, but Michigan State's lost 4 games in a row. But yeah, Michigan State is bad. I mean, they have not, their best win was against Boston College, and they had to do it in 2 overtimes at home to even get that win. So yeah, Michigan State's resume is really, really awful. That's for sure. Childs came back, though. I was wondering what was happening with their quarterback situation. He's back, so they do have their starting quarterback here again, it looks like. Again, I just think weird things can happen here. I would probably lean to Michigan State plus the points here. Probably not going to be a game where there's going to be a lot of offense, so the points are going to be more at a premium in this one. The total is pretty low, down to 47.5. So the points are worth more, and you're getting 2 touchdowns on the Michigan State side now. Michigan's up from a 13-point favorite to a 14-point favorite. I think there is maybe a little bit of value grabbing the 2 touchdowns with Michigan State here. 53% of the tickets are on Michigan, 54% of the cash on Michigan State. Michigan, I mean, still dealing with a freshman quarterback here, Bryce Underwood. This is still a road game, and it is a big rivalry that Underwood has not played in before, so he might not know like what this rivalry is really. I mean, he doesn't know it in person yet or what it's going to look like. It's going to be one game where Michigan State does get up for it, man. I mean, they don't have a whole lot left to play for at this point, but this is, I mean, they could, I guess, technically still become bowl eligible. And they actually have a couple of beatable opponents left, so maybe that's on the table, but I don't know about that. But they will get up for this one. So slightly into Michigan State there. 7:45 p.m. SEC Network, number 17, Tennessee at Kentucky. I believe this is a rivalry as well. These 2 teams, these 2 states, they don't like each other, man. It's the battle of the whiskeys, I think, the bourbons. Or is it Kentucky bourbon against Tennessee whiskey? Is that really what it is? I think that's what it is, yeah. Tennessee, obviously the better of these 2 teams. Kentucky is kind of in a bad spot because they just took Texas to the limit last week, which, as I already mentioned, that was a winner that we had on the show last week. So Kentucky maybe in a little bit of a bad spot, hangover spot coming off of that, although I don't think they're going to overlook Tennessee because they're usually going to get up for a game against Tennessee. Tennessee is coming off a pretty tough loss themselves against Alabama. I know they lost by 17, but you know that's a game you get up emotionally for. They played Alabama. It's going to be their 2nd straight road game, and they do have to face Oklahoma next, which is another ranked team, so maybe a little bit of a sandwich spot for Tennessee, or maybe they overlook Kentucky a little bit here. So I think it's a bad spot for both teams. In a case like that, I think probably I would look towards taking the points with Kentucky in this one. I mean, they can at least play defense again and maybe try to keep this game close. I don't want to be on Kentucky after the way that they almost pulled off the upset against Texas last week, but 77% of tickets, only 70% of the cash on Tennessee. They're down from 8.5 to 8. Bad spot for both teams. Tennessee being the ranked team, probably the value side would be in taking the points with Kentucky. So that is the way that I will lean in that game. Not strong at all. And then ESPN2, 8 p.m., we have 6-1 Houston, although they haven't faced a very difficult schedule, against Arizona State, who's back in the rankings at 24th now. My first instinct on this is that Arizona State's in a massive letdown spot. I mean, they pulled off a huge upset last week at home against Texas Tech. They were 7.5-point underdogs, even up against Texas Tech's backup quarterback. Arizona State was actually in the reverse injured player spot because their quarterback, Levitt, actually came back in that game. So he is going to be back. I mean, he's back already, so he will play again here. Texas Tech was actually in the injured player spot last week, the first game without their quarterback. But it was a big game for Arizona State. I still leaned to Arizona State in that one. They got the outright upset win, huge win against Texas Tech. Now they get a home game against Houston, although will they be focused for Houston, though? Because Houston is a 6-1 team. This has turned into kind of a big game, but I don't know, man. I mean, that Texas Tech win was really, really big. I mean, that's basically what you kind of point to as the legitimizer game, right? Like a team, they might have one win during the season where it's like everybody starts noticing, oh, now this team is like legit in our eyes. And that might have been it for Arizona State, beating a team that was ranked top 10 in the country like Texas Tech. Now they get Houston. Up next, they do have Iowa State, who at least carries more weight behind their name, more respect behind their name. Houston coming into this game off of beating Arizona, so they're coming off a pretty decent win themselves. A close game against Arizona. I think they're still going to be focused, though, going out on the road to face Arizona State here. So I can kind of see it both ways in a way, but I probably do lean to Houston in this one just because overall I just think it is a letdown spot for Arizona State. Houston's a good defensive team, too, and it's a game with both teams are actually pretty good defensively. So points probably at a bit of a premium in this one, too. The total's all the way down to 45.5 now with money on the under. So it's expected to be a low-scoring game, and that also kind of indicates that you kind of want to look towards taking the points. 55% of the tickets, only 54% of the cash on Houston, though. So the percentages right now make it look like Houston's a public underdog, but I'm not sure that I buy that. I mean, you have Arizona State being ranked. You would think that maybe the public would still kind of be on Arizona State, although Houston has a slightly better record, but Arizona State ranked higher than them. I don't know. I don't know if that's still going to play out that way by the time the game kicks off tomorrow night, if you're going to actually see the money still kind of indicating on like the Arizona State side. I don't know if we'll see it that way. I don't really see it that way. I would take the points with Houston if I was going to play that. Not a play for me, though. All right. Three of my plays are going to be on these big games here. I already gave out one early one in Oklahoma. I decided to give it out as a play. I think it is worth it. I mean, I think Ole Miss is in a bad spot, so I do like that one. What other games did I want to talk about before I get into my actual plays? Nate, you're our Nebraska guy, right? We'll talk about Northwestern and Nebraska. I think it's a decent spot for Nebraska to be in a bounce-back spot here, man. Nebraska, they got embarrassed in primetime last week against Minnesota. Just a horrific loss, really. I believe Nebraska was about a 7-point favorite in that one. Went on the road, and they only scored 6 points against Minnesota. That's ugly, man. I think they're in a bounce-back spot off of that. They have an extra day off after that game on Friday night, so they have extra time off here. I think that a game that ugly is going to have you focus again, man. Northwestern, not a good team. I know Nebraska, they have not stepped up well in class. I mean, their only really big game was against Michigan, and they lost, but they did play close in that game. They beat Cincinnati early in the season. Cincinnati is ranked, at least. Nebraska is definitely better than Northwestern, though. I know Northwestern has a 5-2 record, but, I mean, who is Northwestern beaten? They lost to Tulane, they lost to Oregon. Their big win, obviously, is Penn State, but Penn State is just totally derailed at this point. So I don't know how much stock you can really put into that. Other than that, I mean, Northwestern, not an impressive resume from them. They're coming off a shutout, but I think they're going to be focused for Nebraska. I just don't think that they're a very good team. So I think when you get two teams that are probably both going to try to win this game, they'll both be focused. You got to look towards the better team. That is Nebraska. They're down from 8.5 to 7.5, though. You might even be able to get 7. I mean, if you can lay the 7 without the hook on Nebraska, that is probably the way to look here. 68% of the cash on Nebraska, 59% of the tickets on Northwestern. So Northwestern's actually a public underdog. Nebraska's getting the money, though. It is a low total, though. Although money coming in on the over, driving it up a little bit. Nebraska, probably more of a defensive team than an offensive team, but Northwestern probably is as well. And Northwestern, I don't think they really play offense well at all. So probably expecting Northwestern to not put up a lot of points in this one. But again, yeah, it is a little bit difficult to lay a 7.5 with a low total like that at 44.5. But the number is going up a little bit. If I was going to play it, I would lay the points with Nebraska in that one. Nebraska never seems to cover. I don't know what their record is against the spread this year, but I think they're the right side in this game. That would be my opinion in that one. What else? See a lot of ranked games here. Let's see. Kansas State and Kansas. I mean, this is a rivalry game. We got to talk about this one, right? Kansas State, not having a great season, man. They're 3-4. They're coming out of a bye, although they did go into the bye on a good note. They beat TCU going into the bye. Kansas State, 2-loss team in the Big 12. Do they still have a shot? I don't know, man. Unlikely, but I think they went into the bye at a bad time because they got that win over TCU. That was a good win. When that happens, you don't want to stop playing football. Now they got to go to Kansas, and next week they got to face Texas Tech. I mean, that's a big game that's left on the schedule, man. Texas Tech still basically the top team in the conference. I know this is a rivalry game, but Kansas State has had the upper hand in this rivalry for who knows how long. Like, when has Kansas ever actually beaten them? It seems like Kansas takes Kansas State to the limit every game recently, and Kansas falls short every single time. I think is what's been the case every single year recently. So Kansas is basically the little brother of these two, and you know Kansas is going to get up for this game. Kansas State, maybe they will, but I think the spot sets up a little bit better for Kansas in this one. Kansas hilariously actually has the better record out of the two, even though I don't think they're actually the better team. Kansas coming off a loss 2 weeks ago. They actually went into a bye as well, and they went into the bye on a bad note, losing to Texas Tech. So we have conflicting byes here, and I think the bye came at a better time for Kansas because they can use that bye to fix some things after losing to Texas Tech. So, yeah, extra week to prepare for this one for them too. I would lean to Kansas in this one. Kansas is a 3-point favorite, and the juice has gone up a little bit on Kansas. The juice is loose. Odds makers are telling you these teams are almost even power ratings-wise, which is pretty insane. 75% of the tickets on Kansas State, only 62% of the cash. So Kansas State is the public team, man. The public, even though Kansas State has the slightly worse record, they're the underdog. Public is still playing that Kansas State underdog, man, because all they remember, I think, is Kansas State just owning this series and beating Kansas every single time. But you know that's going to be motivation for Kansas. Kansas being favored is insane. They're never favored in this matchup. So maybe Kansas State will use that as a motivational tool. Like, their coaches, if I was their coach, I'd be pointing that out. Like, hey, we dominate this series and we're the underdog here. Maybe that will be a motivating tool for Kansas State, but I do actually lean to Kansas in that one, even though that one also sounds ridiculous. I'm a fan of the ridiculous, man. What can I say? Old Dominion, one of you guys, I think, was it Saab who was on Old Dominion last week? Very, very brutal game for them. They got absolutely pummeled by James Madison in this game, man, and it was not misleading. James Madison annihilated them. They had 624 yards of offense to Old Dominion's 284. I thought it was going to be a closer game than that, although I had a slight lean to James Madison in that one. That is a brutal loss for ODU. Is it embarrassing enough that they're going to show up for this game against App State here? I don't know, man. App State, they're coming in off a pretty ugly loss. App State was a favorite at home last week against Coastal Carolina, and App State blew the game. They were winning most of this game and lost it at the end. Even though I think App State might have actually had the statistical win in this game as well. No, they were even yardage-wise, exactly even. But still, App State was a big favorite in this one. 10.5-point favorite, and they lost the game as a 10.5-point favorite. I think they're going to show up, man. I think Old Dominion might be more in kind of heartbreaker mode where they lost that big game that you get up for emotionally. App State coming off just a kind of an embarrassing loss to both teams coming off embarrassing losses, but App State to lose to a really bad Coastal Carolina team is a favorite like that. I think App State getting the points is the way to look here. Old Dominion, 51% of the tickets. They're a 13-point favorite, by the way, and App State, 58% of the cash as the 13-point underdog. Slight lean towards App State getting the points in that one. Auburn against Arkansas. These teams are both coming off a run of big games, man. Auburn has played 4 straight games close against good teams. They haven't been able to get a win in the SEC, and they've played competitively. Losing to Oklahoma, A&M, Georgia, Missouri, those are all ranked teams. All good teams, though, and they played all of them competitively. So this Auburn team, not that bad. They're going out on the road again to face Arkansas here. Going to be difficult, though, with the fact that they took Missouri to 2 overtimes last week, and I thought Auburn was in the right spot to get that game, and they blew the lead late. So I don't know how they're going to react to that. I think it is a bad spot for Auburn here of all those tough games like that. Problem is Arkansas is in a similar spot. Arkansas, they've lost 5 games in a row, 4 of them against ranked SEC opponents. And last week they took Texas A&M almost to the wire, although Arkansas was down 10, as I pointed out in the final minute of that game. They scored a touchdown to get back within, I think that was what covered the spread for them in that game, but that was still a tough game, close game for them against A&M. So both of these teams are in a bad spot here. Arkansas is up from a 1-point favorite to a 2.5-point favorite here, but they're public, 69% of the tickets, only 51% of the cash on them. So the market read is basically saying to take the points with Auburn here. I don't think I could do it off of that double overtime game, that ridiculous run that Auburn had recently, although I know Arkansas will have a tough game too. Arkansas is the home team, though, staying at home. I don't know, man. I don't know that I lean to the Auburn side here. I think just strictly based on power ratings, I do think this line is maybe a little bit too high on Arkansas here. Auburn is the better team, and the odds makers are still telling you that they are, which people looking at their records might think otherwise still, because both teams don't really have good records here. Auburn is the better team, and Arkansas is close to getting like a full home field advantage here. So based on that number, I do think there might be a little bit of value in Auburn, but the spot is probably a little bit worse for Auburn, especially because they are having to travel. So that's a tough call, man. The money read right now is saying Auburn. Would I have to default to agreeing with that? I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily would. What else we got here? UConn at Rice. This is one of my stronger opinions, actually. I lean to Rice in this one. This is a second straight road game for UConn. And UConn, they have not played west of New York this year. Now they have to go down to Houston, Texas. So UConn's road games this year have been at Syracuse, at Delaware, and at Boston College. I hear a fucking car alarm going off outside, so isn't that just awesome? Fucking hate that shit. UConn, but yeah, their most recent win, so they haven't had to travel a lot. This is a very unfamiliar travel spot, but their most recent win was a big win against Boston College, and I know it was I think UConn was probably the favorite in that game, as bad as Boston College has been. That's still like the big brother in New England, man. So that's still a big win for UConn to go into Boston College and beat them. Now they got to go down to Rice, and Rice runs a triple option attack too, so UConn not really going to be that familiar with defending against the triple option. I like how this sets up for Rice. I would take the points with Rice in this one. Rice is all Rice, and that doesn't sound, yeah, they're going to poison UConn. Rice is coming off a bye, and they went into that bye on 3 straight losses, and they went into that bye on a horrific note. They lost 61-13 to UTSA. That's just totally embarrassing. So I think that was a good spot to have their bye, because you have a bye off of that embarrassing a loss. You're going to use that a bye to fix some things, man. And they still potentially could become bowl eligible here, although it's unlikely at this point, because really their only like actual winnable game left is a home game against UAB. But still, I think they're going to show up for this one. It's kind of a weird spot for UConn. So I would take the points with Rice in this one if I was going to do it. UConn's down from 10.5 to 10. If you like Rice, I would take the 10. I don't know if it's going to get back to 10.5. Probably not. You don't want to wait for it to go to 9.5, though. 62% of the tickets on UConn, so they're a bit public. 51% of the cash coming in on Rice. So the actual money's coming in on Rice, and it's a low total, 48.5 in this one. So yeah, I mean, I think taking the points with Rice makes sense in that game. I was thinking about how I'm laying the points with Oklahoma here. That total's not that low in the Oklahoma game, by the way, up to 53. So looks not terrible to lay the points there. So what else we got? I'm not going to talk about my best bets yet. Oh, holy shit, I actually forgot Minnesota and Iowa. I didn't even actually handicap this game tonight. I didn't... How many games did I skip? What did I do? I think that was the only game I skipped. But Minnesota, I think Minnesota's in a bad spot, dude. They just pulled off that upset in primetime at home against Nebraska. And Nebraska was ranked at the time, and everybody's going to look at Minnesota being 3-1 in the Big Ten. Oh my God, they might be able to make the Big Ten championship. The fact that they only have 2 losses. Yeah, but who did they beat besides Nebraska? They beat Buffalo, Northwestern State, who's an FCS team. I know Buffalo's pretty good in the MAC, but still, I'm not impressed. They barely beat Rutgers at home. They're not good. And they beat Purdue only by 7 at home. They're not good. So Minnesota, not an impressive resume here. Now they're going out on the road. They're 0-2 on the road, although, yeah, one of their losses was to Ohio State. Can't blame them for that. The other loss was at Cal, where they had to go out to the Pacific Coast, but I think Minnesota was actually favored in that game. It's going to be a tough environment, man, for them to have to go to Iowa after a big primetime upset like this. Iowa, really good defensively. Iowa is coming off a win over Penn State, though, and they do have Oregon up next, although it's after a bye. Do I really want to come in and lay the points with Iowa here? Not really, but I still think it's the right side, even though Iowa, doesn't have the extra day of rest like Minnesota does. But I think that extra day of rest doesn't help when you pulled off a big primetime upset. Iowa is coming off beating Penn State. Penn State covered the number finally. Penn State was in the fired coach spot and the injured player spot with their injured quarterback there. So I did like Penn State to cover in that one. I thought they might win the game. Penn State did cover. But does Iowa consider that to be a big win? It's tough to gauge. Do you think Iowa's going to be in a letdown spot after beating a big-name team like Penn State, even though Penn State's really down this year? I don't know, man. So that's one thing to try to figure out. The money is coming in on Iowa, though, pretty strongly. They're up from 8 to 9.5 here. 66% of the tickets on Minnesota, but 68% of the cash on Iowa. So the money is saying Iowa. I will agree with it, and I would lay the points if I was going to do it, but this total is ridiculous. It's at 39. I mean, Iowa really good defensively. Minnesota pretty solid defensively and very weak offensively. Iowa's offense not great, but at least capable at this point. So can Iowa cover a number like that in a game with just an insanely low total? I don't know. I don't want to make it a play, but I would slightly lean to Iowa. Toledo at Washington State's an interesting one. Washington State's in a really, really weird spot, and I think a difficult spot. Washington State, I mean, they've had 3 road games in a row. They did have a bye after the first one where they went into Colorado State and beat them. Colorado State's not very good. Then they came out of a bye and they went to Ole Miss, and they came to within 3 as 30-something point underdogs in that one. And then they had to play another game, this time on the East Coast. So they went from Mississippi to the East Coast to play Virginia, 2 ranked teams, and as a 17.5 point underdog in that one. They almost won that game too. So they are coming off 2 games where they were gigantic underdogs, and they only lost by a combined 5 points in those 2 games. And now they're going to come back home to face Toledo, a MAC team. And up next, they get Oregon State. And of course, Oregon State is their only conference game, so it's a rivalry just because they're the 2 teams that were left behind in the Pac-2. So that is a big game against Oregon State. So it's a bad spot, man, with a cross-country trip off 2 huge performances as an underdog like this. And then with a look ahead, big-time sandwich spot here. I like Toledo in this game. My only concern with it is that I don't know how Toledo's going to play when they have to go to the Pacific Coast for the first time. That's the issue I have with it. It's a weird travel spot for Toledo. I mean, they're coming off an easy win over Kent State, so I'm not concerned about that. That's kind of just a momentum-building win after they lost to Bowling Green the game before that. Toledo's had some weird losses, though. Losing to Western Michigan, especially, is kind of a weird loss on the road there. Losing to Bowling Green as a favorite, also kind of weird. Toledo is better than their record looks, though, because they did lose both those games as a favorite against Western Michigan and Bowling Green, and their only other loss was a close loss to Kentucky on the road. Pretty decent performance for Toledo there against an SEC team. But, again, my problem with this is they have not gone west of the Mississippi this entire season. Now they got to go out to Washington State, to Pullman, Washington. Really just kind of a weird environment for Toledo to have to go to, so I just can't get there with it. But I do think it's a horrible spot for Washington State, so I do lean to Toledo in this one. They flipped from a 2-point dog to a 2-point favorite. You can probably actually lay 1.5 here, or maybe find a money line on Toledo. If you want to play it, that is what I would do. And it looks weird to see Toledo as a favorite, right? Like, why is a MAC team a favorite against a team that used to be in the Pac-12? Well, the odds makers are telling you Toledo is actually better than Washington State, which I don't think the public would really think that that's the case. Toledo actually might be the best team in the MAC. It's just their record doesn't reflect it right now. 56% of the tickets, 71% of the cash on Toledo. I agree with it. The only thing that's holding me back on that one is the travel spot for Toledo. Having to go out there, man. That's the only thing, the only hesitation that I would have there. San Diego State and Fresno is actually a big game in the Mountain West. Man, this is going to be another long video, huh? Although at least all three of my remaining plays, or no, 3 out of the 4 are games that I skipped because they're all ranked matchups. San Diego State's coming off, they're coming out of a bye. They went into a bye with 4 straight wins, including pummeling Nevada on their last game. Went into a bye. Now they're coming out of that bye. San Diego State, maybe they are back somewhat, man. I mean, this was a proud program for a while. They've had some bad years. They're 5-1 this year, though, and they're actually in the mix in the Mountain West right now, man. So the Mountain West right now is Boise is still the best team there. UNLV is in the mix there. I know. Fresno and San Diego State all have decent records there, and Hawaii is actually not that far behind either. So interesting. This is a big game, but again, San Diego State did go into a bye on a really good note, so that could kind of halt their momentum a little bit. So not a really great time for them to have a bye. Fresno's sitting at 5-2 on the season with 1 loss in the Mountain West. And that was their last game against Colorado State, which was on a Friday primetime game. So everybody kind of saw that. Just a horrendous loss for Fresno State against a pretty bad Colorado State team. Fresno went into a bye on that note. So Fresno went into the bye on a much worse note, which I think makes the bye better because they can use it to fix things. And get prepared for this game against San Diego State. Yeah, they have Boise next, but I don't think they're going to overlook San Diego State with the way San Diego State's been playing and coming out of the bye off of that really bad game. So I actually think Fresno is the right side in this game, but the money seems to disagree with it. San Diego State's up from a 2.5-point favorite to a 3.5-point road favorite. So the oddsmakers really respecting San Diego State now, telling you San Diego State, not really a bad team anymore necessarily. 54% of the tickets, only 52% of the cash on Fresno. So Fresno looks like a public home underdog, which is something you rarely see and usually not the side that you want to be on. But I think the bye is more beneficial to Fresno, so I would lean to taking the points with Fresno. Certainly don't want to do it, though. By the way, I will point out that sometimes when these teams that are not expected to become bowl eligible become bowl eligible, which isn't the case with those two teams yet. But when you have a team that's not used to being bowl eligible and they get their 6th win, sometimes that team can have a letdown just based off of that. So we're kind of in that part of the season now, though I don't see any of those spots really yet that I want to do anything with. But that's just something to keep in mind. Saab, what's up, man? You went 3-1 yesterday. You mean tonight, right? I went 3-1 as well, right? Who I'm on in college, we haven't gotten to my best bets yet, although I gave out an early best bet that I decided to elevate to a best bet. So I will reiterate that one again at the end of the show. What other games did I have to talk about, or did I want to talk about before we get to my best bets here? This is at least not going to be a 2.5-hour show this time. TCU is going to West Virginia. I think the spot for TCU is actually pretty bad. They just beat Baylor. That's a big Texas matchup there for TCU. And they do have Iowa State coming up next, although it is after a bye. But going to Morgantown here, I don't love the spot, man. TCU, they haven't been good on the road. Their only road win was that win where they blasted North Carolina. We know North Carolina sucks, but TCU, when they've gone on the road in conference, they lost both games to Arizona State and Kansas State. Obviously, West Virginia is nowhere near as good as those two teams, but I think this is a weird spot, man, for TCU. It's not a great spot. West Virginia sitting at 2-5, and they're coming in off another horrendous loss, although it was on the road to UCF. So they're going to come back home, where the last time they were at home, they got shelled by Utah, although Utah's pretty good. West Virginia, at least their only FBS win was at home against Pitt. So they have at least been a little bit better at home. They've been switching their quarterbacks up, I guess. I mean, this offense is definitely a big concern for West Virginia, but the spot's not good for TCU, man. So I would lean to taking the points with West Virginia in this one. I just figured I would point that out. TCU's up from 14.5 to 17 as a road favorite. 78% of the tickets, only 75% of the cash on them. So the public is on the TCU side, less of the money on them. It's ugly. It's not a play for me, but a slight lean in that one. What other games did I really want to talk about here? We're getting to the night. I think we're almost to the best bets here, man. I was going to point out briefly that Georgia Southern I looked at this and I thought it looked like Georgia Southern was in a bad spot to me because they're coming off winning that rivalry game against Georgia State. I know Georgia State's really bad, so I don't know how much weight you can really put into that, but that's still a big rivalry game, and it was a nice win for Georgia Southern. Now they go on the road to Arkansas State, who I know Arkansas State has not been a good team, but that might mean that Georgia Southern might overlook them. And they do have App State coming up next on a Thursday. As next week, by the way, or maybe the following week, we're going to start getting MAC Tuesday games, by the way. The Tuesday MACtion is finally going to be back next week or the following. I think it's the following week because the teams are playing tomorrow or today at this point, and then they're going to have the week off and then play on Tuesday. So something to keep in mind there. And that Tuesday is going to be considered to be part of that following week, I believe. But yeah, Georgia Southern, they do have App State up next too, and App State does carry some weight, and that is going to be a primetime game on a Thursday. So to me, it looks like a little bit of a sandwich for Georgia Southern here. Arkansas State, they are coming off pulling off an upset, though, at South Alabama. So I don't love the spot for Arkansas State either. They were an 8.5-point underdog in that game, and they somehow pulled off the upset against South Alabama. And then they had extra time off, and I think that extra time off can kind of be a momentum killer when you went in on 2 straight upsets like they did against Texas State and South Alabama. So just giving out some more information about how I handicap these games. I think both teams are actually in bad spots. The money is heavily coming in on Georgia Southern, though. Arkansas State's down from 2-1 as a favorite. 59% of the tickets on Arkansas State, 73% of the cash on Georgia Southern. So the money coming in on the Georgia Southern side, I guess I'll slightly agree with it just because that's where the market read is. I think the spot's a little bit worse for Arkansas State, but I had a hard time with this game when I handicapped it, man, because I was like, I want to fade both of these teams, so can't quite do it. Saab, you're in Europe. Wait, you're in Poland. Oh, all right. I don't even think I knew where you were, man. Hopefully, Ukraine isn't going to send more missiles into your country there. LSU plus 2.5. I talked about that already. I lean to LSU, but that's my weakest opinion on the 4 games that you have here. I slightly lean to LSU, but that one is actually really difficult. You can go back and see how I see what my thoughts were on that game. That was a difficult game for me to handicap. Iowa State, I have not talked about yet. I wonder why. Iowa, I did just talk about that. I don't know if you were here yet for that. I agree with the Iowa side as well, but laying that many points with a game that's such a low total, I just don't think I could really get there with it, but I don't disagree with that one. And Wake Forest, haven't talked about that one yet either, so you're probably gonna like what I have to say coming up shortly. I am also going to talk about Colorado and Utah real quick here. Utah, I think they might still be deserving of being a top 25 ranked team, man. It's just they've taken 2 losses, but I mean, they lost to Texas Tech and BYU. I mean, you can't blame them for losing to Texas Tech, even though I know Utah was favored. They were at home. They got blown out. They turned the ball over too much in the game. I don't know. And yeah, they lost to BYU last week, but this is a misleading result, man. Like, Utah was favored on the road. I still think they're the better team over BYU. And if you look at what happened in this game, Utah outgained BYU by over 100 yards in the game, man. Again, they had turnovers. They were -2 in the turnover department, but they outgained BYU 470 to 368. And this is going to come into play with that Iowa State handicap that I'm going to talk about in a second, too. So Utah, they're better than they looked here, man. Utah committed a ton of penalties, too. 12 penalties, maybe some rigging going on for the home team here. That's something you got to be aware of, man, especially in what we're seeing with the NBA here now. You kind of got to try to figure out what you think the refs are going to do, although I still don't really do that. I just handicap the situations. But the refs seem to be factoring into some of these games, man. I think Utah is the better team. They should have won this game against BYU. I'm kind of pissed about it, even though I didn't give it out as a play. I just had a lean on Utah. I think I probably picked Utah in like the ESPN pick'ems, but I'm not doing those for money. The money ones that I have on a Splash, I did not use them, but still I'm pissed about it. But I think that sets up a bad spot for Utah here, man. I mean, that was the Holy War. That's a big old rivalry, and the rivalry had gone away for a while. Now the rivalry is back. Huge game for both of those teams, and it's a Utah in-state rivalry as well. Now they got to face Colorado, and up after this, they got ranked Cincinnati coming up next, so it's somewhat of a sandwich-looking spot for Utah here. Colorado, they're probably going to step it up to face Utah here. The issue that I would have with Colorado, They're coming out of a bye, which, yes, I know it means they have extra time to prepare for this, but they went into the bye on a good note. They beat Iowa State. They upset Iowa State, so they got to win against a ranked team at home. So I think they are kind of in a letdown spot. I think maybe when that happens, you don't really use the bye totally to your advantage. So I can't quite get there with Colorado on this one for that reason, but I still lean that way. One of the rare situations where I don't like Utah in a game. Utah's down from 15 to 14 on the line here. 75% of the tickets, only 53% of the cash. So, of course, Colorado can cover and not win the game here, which I'm kind of thinking that might be what happens here. Total's not high, and it's dropped down to 49. Money kind of coming in on the under here. Utah probably going to be able to somehow get away with winning this game with their defense, but I would take the points with Colorado if I was going to play that one. All right, best bet time, right? Let me see. What do you got? I remember Gortat. Yeah, what's up with that? He's a meme in Poland. Gortat from the Orlando I remember him on the Magic. I don't remember him on the Wizards. He talks like he's an NBA legend and a friend of Shaq. Maybe he is a friend of Shaq. I mean, Shaq started his career with the Magic. The Magic were really good with Shaq, and then the team just kind of... Shaq left the team to go to the Lakers, which... At that point, that made me not like Shaq, man. But Shaq got back on my good side when he had the beef with Kobe, the Kobe beef. Because I was not a Kobe fan, man. I was more of a Shaq fan than a Kobe fan. I really liked Shaq when he was on the Magic. I liked that team. Didn't like what happened there. Always hate the Lakers because I'm a Celtics fan, so I hated when Shaq went over there. But I liked Shaq clashing with Kobe. I had to side with Shaq, and that beef... Shaq, put Kobe's toothbrush in his ass and then asked Kobe how his ass tastes. It's just, boys being boys, the bros being bros in the locker room. Gortat, I don't know. He might know Shaq. I don't know. I mean, Shaq would probably talk to a fellow Magic center like Gortat. But yeah, I remember Gortat. Where's Gortat? Is Gortat Polish? I don't even know. I don't know where he's at now. I assume he's like Eastern European of some kind. But yeah, I do remember him. Tall, white, bald guy. Sochan is half Polish. I don't even know who that is, really. I don't know. I think I should know more of the personnel than I do, man. Let's get into the best bets here, man. And by the way, we were both 3-1 tonight, Saab. All my NBA plays, I'm pretty sure I went 3-1. The games weren't over yet, but Portland and the Lakers both had huge leads, so I'm pretty sure I went 3-1 with those. And I forget if Detroit won outright or not for me, but they definitely covered. Let's get into the best bets here, man. And I will reiterate the best bet that I already gave out. Saab, if you want to go back and see the analysis on this, I gave out Oklahoma -5. On the fly, I decided that it was strong enough to make it a play, so I'm actually going to have 5 plays here. Oklahoma minus the points. Just shortly, better defense. I think they're actually the better team, even though the rankings are telling you the opposite. Ole Miss is more public, and they're more of an offensive team, and Ole Miss had that brutal loss to Georgia last week. So I think the spot sets up pretty well for Oklahoma in that one. So, Sochan is on the Spurs. All right. 3-0. Whoa, 3-0 on the ice tonight, too. You had 3 bets in hockey when there were only 4 games. Holy shit, man. You're more high volume than I am. I try to be really selective here. Very good day. Yes, I'm up on the year, man. Dude, I need to just start putting money on these games again because I was down on the year most of the year because college basketball went so horribly early in the year. Hell yeah, you agree with Oklahoma. Let's get this done and keep this under 2 hours, man. Best bets, one more time. Oh, wait. Anyway, yeah, Oklahoma's the first play. Let's get into the rest of them because I got to talk about 4 of them. Next up, we're going to have some games that I think are early in the day. There you go. Wake Forest +3.5. Saab, I'm going to agree with you on this one, as you probably already figured. Probably for the same reasons that you do. I believe this one is at noon. I'm pretty sure you can get the 3.5. I saw the 3.5s out there before I did the show, so I'm giving it out at 3.5. I don't know if you wait if you're still going to be able to get the 3.5 because Wake Forest does have 52% of the tickets, 73% of the cash on them. +3 I think is also okay if you want to do it. But I definitely saw 3.5s out there not too long ago, so I think they might still be out there. Shop around. That's why I say you got to have as many books as possible. The money is coming in on the Wake side here. This game's going to be at noon. This is a terrible spot for SMU. This is going to be on the CW if you want to go watch that and watch some Supernatural or something after that or whatever. SMU, they're coming off a monster win, dude. They pulled off an upset on the road of Clemson. Clemson's a little bit down this year, and that was such a big win because that was the ACC championship revenge game for SMU. If you guys remember the ACC championship last year, both of these teams did make the playoff, but Clemson won the ACC championship last year in a close game against SMU. You know SMU had that game circled, man. That was going to be one game that SMU was really going to get up for. They got the huge win. Now they're coming off of that. They have a second straight road game where they got to go to Wake. They got to go to a Wake. Maybe it'll be a Wake for themselves, I think, after they lose this game. How about that? And up next, they got to go to Miami, which is a huge game for them. SMU is still undefeated in the ACC. They're at 5-2. They still have a shot to make the ACC title, man, but they're going to have to. They're probably going to need to beat Miami, to be honest, man. So we'll see what happens there, but that's going to be a huge look ahead. This is definitely a sandwich spot, and I think SMU is not as good as their record looks. I mean, the odds makers don't have them as a huge favorite here against Wake, who Wake was not supposed to be any good at all. They were supposed to be a doormat, and Wake has kind of proven that they're actually a pretty competitive team, but that's okay. I mean, that at least means I think we're going to get a competitive performance out of Wake here. SMU, I mean, what's their most impressive win? It is the Clemson one. I mean, their other wins are against East Texas A&M, an FCS team, Missouri State, who's new to the FBS, and that was a game where I gave out Missouri State plus the points in that one, and we got the job done in that one. They covered. And then their other wins are against Syracuse, Stanford, who was having to travel to SMU there. None of their other wins are impressive, dude, and Clemson is down this year too, so SMU's resume is not very good. And they haven't been that good on the road, except for that win against Clemson. Pretty lousy performance and a win, non-covering win against Missouri State, and then they lost at TCU. So, yeah, I mean, SMU has not been that impressive so far. It's a bad spot for them. Wake, they're at 4-2, which I know they're probably not as good as their record looks. Their two losses were basically the two games where they stepped up in class, but one was a primetime game against NC State, and Wake Forest was winning that game by 10, I think, in the third quarter, and they fell apart and lost the game, but they could have won that game against NC State, so they actually didn't play poorly in that one. And then they took Georgia Tech to overtime. I know Georgia Tech, they're overrated. They're not like the seventh best team in the country, but Wake played them pretty well, man. Those were at home as well, so Wake's been competitive at home. They won on the road against Virginia Tech, too. Virginia Tech, I know they're down this year, but that's still a pretty decent win. And Wake Forest did go out to Oregon State and beat them in an unfamiliar environment. Kind of crazy that Wake was able to do that. So Wake is actually playing pretty well. And that was an injured player spot, I think, for Wake. Their quarterback was injured, Ashford. So Purdy, not spelled the same way as Brock Purdy, not related. I think Purdy is not a white guy, this Purdy. But yeah, he played in that last game. But I do think Ashford is back in this game. So yeah, there are a couple of hesitations here, but the spot is so bad for SMU that I'm going to throw that out and just do this anyway. Sometimes, I mean, it gets a little bit subjective, man. I know Wake is coming off a bye, so they do have extra time to prepare for this game. I think they're going to step it up. I mean, they got SMU coming to their place. You know they got to be focused on this game. I know normally I would say you don't want to be on a team that went into a bye on a good note like Wake did. They won 2 games in a row. But that bye is going to help them come back from the Pacific Coast. So it's going to help alleviate the travel concerns there coming back home. So I think that's good. And, yeah, they're getting their quarterback back, Ashford. But I think the bye can actually help alleviate that concern too, because normally it would be like an injured player theory spot, where a reverse injured player spot where, our starting quarterback's coming back, we're not going to play as hard or whatever. I don't think that's going to be the case here. They get more time to readapt, so the chemistry shouldn't be a concern with him coming back because they get an extra week to help with that. And, again, I mean, I don't think they're going to overlook SMU. So we will be on Wake Forest in that one for all those reasons. And, yes, I believe Ashford is coming back. He had a finger injury, but he is coming back. You agree with Oklahoma? Hell yeah. You're a fiend of the hockey, an ice fiend. Indiana minus 26.5. I did not talk about NC State. I can if you want me to. I forget what my thoughts even were on that. I agree with the lean on Indiana. Not a play for me, but I actually agree with that, laying the points in that one. All right, next up for the best bets, Iowa State minus 2.5. You already knew what I was going to do, man. This game is at 3:30 p.m. on Fox. We're fading BYU here, man. I mean, first of all, Iowa State is a favorite, and they're unranked against a ranked BYU team. So, I mean, this is one of those classic spots. The unranked favorite against a ranked opponent. It's a ranked opponent who's ranked 11th in the country. The odds makers are telling you, hold on a minute. And I know earlier in the season I was saying Iowa State's not that good. They shouldn't be ranked. I still agree with that, but I also think that that's the case with BYU. I think they're way overrated. BYU is the way more overrated of these two teams now. And it's a terrible spot for BYU. As I'm about to point out, the money is coming on Iowa State. They're up from 2 to 2.5 here. It doesn't really matter, 2 or 2.5, I don't think. I mean, I know with 2-point conversions, 2 is a little bit of a more key number now, but 3 is obviously still the key. So lay less than the 3 on Iowa State or lay the money line on it. 54% of the tickets, 61% of the cash on Iowa State. So the money seems to agree with the Iowa State side in this one. BYU, they're in a terrible spot, dude. As I already alluded to, they're coming off the Holy War, beating Utah, knocking Utah from the rankings. Huge win for BYU. BYU, as I said, they also actually got outgained in the game by over 100 yards. It's just Utah was minus in the turnover department and way minus in the penalty department. The game was a misleading result, man. BYU shouldn't have won that game. BYU has not been impressive, man. I mean, that's their best win so far. And prior to that, they had a 2-overtime win against Arizona. So they're coming off 2 big wins in a row, really. Or at least 2 grueling games, having to go to double OT and then facing a physical Utah team. I think they're going to be physically taxed after all that, man. And they're playing Texas Tech next, although it is after a bye. But that basically makes it a sandwich spot. It makes it look like a look-ahead spot. It makes it a sandwich spot. I mean, that's a big game for BYU, like along with Texas Tech. They're on top of the Big 12 right now, basically. So that's going to be a big game for them. I think they might get caught by this Iowa State team, man. BYU, the rest of their schedule is totally unimpressive. I mean, that Utah game was by far their best win. Their best win prior to that was the Arizona one. And I know they keep winning, but I don't think it's going to happen here. I think it's going to come to an end. BYU's not that good. They lost Retzlaff, their quarterback, who, as I keep pointing out, he was their quarterback last year, and they kicked him off the team for having sex on campus, which is not allowed when you're Mormon. So now they're going with Bachmeier, who's not bad, but I think it's a downgrade from Retzlaff. I expected this BYU team to be worse this year. I think it's going to come into play in this game. I know Iowa State's not as good as people were saying that they were at the beginning of the season, but they've faced a more difficult schedule than BYU, actually. Iowa State also beat Arizona, but they trounced them. They beat Iowa, which was a pretty good win. They beat Kansas State, who's not terrible still, although Kansas State kind of outplayed them in that Dublin game. But Iowa State now, they're coming out of a bye, and they went into the bye on a bad note. They lost 2 games in a row, but it was back-to-back road games, and they got derailed by that Cincinnati loss, man. I told you I thought Cincinnati was going to beat them. They did. Cincinnati just really, really good offensively, and Iowa State just couldn't keep up with them in that game. And because I think they took their first loss in that game, Iowa State did, I think it hung them over into that next game. They had to go out into elevation into Colorado, so they lost that game as well. But I think this bye came at the best possible time for them, man. You take those 2 losses, you go into the bye on that really bad note, you get to fix things in that bye, man, and prepare something for BYU. So I think it's a very advantageous bye for Iowa State. That's another advantage for Iowa State here. Yeah, we're going to go with Iowa State, lay the points in that one. So there's that game there. BYU's quarterback is number 47. I think I'm missing the reference on that one, I think. Sometimes my mind just doesn't think in the right way anymore, man. I don't know what the 47 reference is. Next up, we're going to go with Missouri +3. I'm going to break one of my rules in this one, too. The money is strongly agreeing with this one, though, and I'm pretty sure you can get the 3 right now because Vandy has gone up from a 2.5 to 2.5 with heavy juice. I'm pretty sure you can get that key number 3 on this. I saw it before I started the show. if you just hang around a little bit, I'm sure you'll find a 3 if you want it on Missouri, if you can't find it already. 73% of the tickets on Vandy, 56% of the cash coming in on the other side of Missouri. So Vandy is a public darling at this point in Missouri, still, I think, under the radar and getting the cash here. Vandy is ranked 10th in the country. I do not think they're the 10th best team in the country. I'm thinking maybe they're a top 25 team, but I think they're actually very, very overrated now at this point. Whoops. What am I doing here? What did I do? No. Don't bookmark it. I don't know what happened. Yeah, there it is. This is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, by the way, as well on ESPN. Missouri, I think, is actually pretty much accurately ranked at 15th in the country. I think they're about that power ratings-wise when you look at what the power ratings guys have, which are basically what the odds makers have. Vandy, overrated right now. And the odds makers are actually telling you that because Vandy's not getting the full home field advantage here. Another thing I like about this is Missouri has the better defense, so you get the better defense getting points here. That's going to have me looking that way as well. That is the case with Missouri. Vandy's the better offense, but Missouri can run the football, man. Both of these teams are actually really good at running the football, but I think Missouri might be even a little bit better than Vandy is. That's what Missouri does. They play defense, they run the football, and I love teams that do that because those teams, they tend to not turn it over as much. They hold on to the ball more. They get more time of possession. They grind the opponent down. They're physical, and the public doesn't like them because they don't score as much. So I love teams that profile like that, and that was part of the reason why I liked Missouri in that game against Alabama, and I know they kind of got outplayed more than what the final score looked against Alabama. Last week, they had to go to double overtime to beat Auburn, and Auburn was, even though the line was close in this game, and I thought Auburn was going to be the winning side in this one, the line was basically a pick-the-winner type of game. I think because Missouri's ranked and Auburn is still winless in the SEC and not ranked, I think Missouri might see this game as an escape. Like, hey, we escaped. We have to do things better. So I think for that reason, Missouri is going to be extra focused here. I think they're going to be focused anyway because it's Vandy. This game went into double overtime, though, that's the rule that I'm breaking here. I almost never want to play on a team that went into double overtime. But in this case, where I think they might see it as an escape against an inferior team, I think Missouri is going to show up focused for this one. I think the spot is a lot worse for Vandy here. Vandy's coming off a pretty monumental win over LSU. I thought that maybe they'd never beaten LSU before as a program. They have, but it was like decades ago when they beat LSU the last time. That was a huge win for Vandy. It was revenge for losing LSU last year as well. That's basically the legitimizer game for Vandy, man, because who else has Vandy beaten? Their best win besides that was what? South Carolina. And that was a game where I gave out Vandy on the show in that one because I thought South Carolina was just massively overrated after so many defensive and special teams touchdowns. And South Carolina, yeah, I know their quarterback got hurt in the game too, Sellers. We got the game right. I think we were right anyway in that game, but that's not that impressive of a win for Vandy. So really their big win is the one that they had last week against LSU. That's the legitimizer game, man. And again, I think when that happens, I think the team's in a letdown spot after that. I know they're facing a ranked Missouri team, but that was such a big win for the Vandy program, beating a team like LSU where they hadn't done that before. So now in the last 2 years, Vandy has beaten the top guns, man, Alabama and LSU. Oh, and by the way, who's the team that they almost pulled off the upset against last year, who was the other top gun in the SEC? Now, oh yeah, that would be Texas, and that's who Vandy plays next. And I think Vandy's going to remember that game because they almost pulled off the upset against Texas. They're going to want revenge against Texas, man. I think Vandy might actually look right past Missouri in this one. As ridiculous as that might sound because it's a ranked matchup, I think it's a terrible spot for Vandy. Last year they did lose to Missouri, actually, in Missouri in 2 overtimes. So I guess technically it's revenge for Vandy, but I think that the LSU and the Texas games mean more, man, to Vandy than this one does. I mean, you can only have so many revenge games in a row and care about all of them. I think the spot sets up a lot better for Missouri. That's where we're going. The market agrees with it, so we will do that as well. That's the second to last play that I have here. Agree with Missouri, but Pavia always finds a way. Yeah, but that's not really a solid handicap, like a solid reasoning for handicapping a game. Like this guy just always wins. Yeah, I mean he does. He's like a bulldog, but you can't just have that every single game, man. I mean, they're going to lose games somewhere. And they did lose to Alabama. I don't know, Alabama's better than Missouri, but still. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, that's just not really, I don't know. It's not really a handicapping factor. Oh, interesting. You took South Carolina. Interesting. You're going to put Missouri in. It is a Texas look ahead, for Vandy there, which I think is actually pretty big. So, yeah, I've liked Missouri all week, so I'm going with that one. And then finally, my last play, what is it again? Oh, yeah, it's South Carolina plus the points, plus 11.5 or whatever here. Oh, by the way, I was going to look real quick to see, is there an Iowa State, revenge motive here against BYU? I forgot. I don't want to put too much stock into revenge because these teams play each other every year. So the revenge that matters is, was it a monumental game that you really remember? Iowa State didn't even play BYU last year, it looks like, so there's no revenge angle there. So whatever. Anyway, South Carolina plus the points here. I don't know what the best number is you can get on this. We missed the 13 on this. I think the best you can get is 11.5 right now. Saab got a better number, 12.5, but there's no real difference between 12.5 and 11.5, I wouldn't say. This line dropped from 13 to 11.5, 76% of the tickets, 72% of the cash. Hopefully it doesn't land exactly 12. That would be ridiculous and unlikely. But Alabama's public, 76% of the tickets, only 72% of the cash. One thing we got going for this, besides the fact the market agrees with this, and there's reverse line movement coming in, dropping the line, going against the public Alabama side here. One of the other things we have going for us is it's a pretty low total again at 47.5, although I know it's gone up a little bit, but it's a public over as well. So I think we could see some defense in this one. Yeah, Alabama's the better team. Yeah, they're fourth in the country. Both these teams play good defense, though. South Carolina, their offense has been pretty miserable this year, but they can still play defense. And I think Alabama might just overlook South Carolina, dude. I mean, how many games could Alabama possibly go all out for and keep winning? They've won 4 straight games against ranked teams, and we did fade them in the Missouri game, and they had a close game, at least on the scoreboard, although they actually played a little bit better statistically. But, yeah, I mean, that game was the only game in that run where it was really a game they didn't show up focused for. They beat Georgia on the road. They beat Vandy in a revenge spot at home. A little bit of a sandwich spot. Went out on the road. Had a little bit of a lesser performance at Missouri. Bounced back and had a revenge win against Tennessee last week. So now I think they're in a letdown spot after that, man. That was a huge win for Alabama against Tennessee, especially because it was revenge for Tennessee beating them last year. Now they get this South Carolina team that I really don't think anybody's taking seriously. And then they have a bye, but who do they have up next after the bye? They got LSU, man. And I know it's going to be a bigger game for LSU because that's a big revenge game for LSU after Alabama went into LSU, I think, and beat them last year and pretty much ended LSU's season. But, both those teams are going to be looking ahead to that game, man. That's a huge game. And then Alabama does have Oklahoma after that as well. And they have a big game against Auburn, which is always a big rivalry game, the Egg Bowl, the Iron Bowl, right? It's the Iron Bowl, I think. Yeah, the Egg Bowl is the Mississippi ones, right? Yeah, Auburn's the Iron Bowl, Auburn and Alabama, I think, whatever it is. Big game to finish the season there. So this is one of the games where I think Alabama just might not have full focus on. South Carolina, with Alabama coming into their place, they're going to try to get up for this game. They're coming off an embarrassing loss kind of last week where they only scored 7 points against Oklahoma. Yeah, the South Carolina offense isn't good. They fired their offensive line coach a couple weeks ago. It hasn't really helped that much. But if it's going to be a low-scoring game, we don't need them to score a ton here to come within this number, man, hopefully. And it hopefully is a game where Alabama just doesn't go full throttle and they kind of just get in, get out. I think South Carolina will get up for it again because it's one of the biggest games on their schedule. At this point, South Carolina, they don't have a whole lot left to play for them, man. I mean, they could try to still become bowl eligible here. It looks like they might not be able to do that either at this point. But that they're going to treat this game as a big game for once because it's Alabama coming into their place. So one of the few games left on the schedule that they will show focus for. And, Beamer, I mean, his job might be at stake here. So they got to perform well for him in that way, too, if they like Shane Beamer there, if they want him to stay. I don't know if the players do like him or not. I mean, I kind of liked him. I liked him on that documentary that was on Netflix. I kind of liked Beamer. I mean, I liked his vibe. I'm not sure if he's a very good coach, though. But South Carolina is the play in that one. You think it's going to go to the wire? Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to want South Carolina. Very ugly offense, too. You bet on soccer as well. Okay, yeah. Full-time soccer. All right. I don't know anything about the soccer stuff. You listen to the guys at Wager Talk. Yeah, I've listened to those guys since they were back on pregame, and a bunch of them left because I think they didn't like the management at pregame. So Marco D'Angelo is my guy, man. Just his situational handicapping is what I've learned the most from. I like him. I like Vegas Runner as well. Yanni, however you pronounce his name, Ace. Good market reading stuff from him. Those guys are both at pregame. I liked both of those guys. I liked their chemistry together as well. I was following them, and I think they both did a show with Gil Alexander back in the day, too. That was a good show. And now the team is back because they do that Wager Talk show. Now bet on it. So I do like that. I learned a lot from that show. Yeah, huge fan of Marco. He's probably my favorite. Yeah, the Wager Talk, I mean, I kind of like the way they do things better than pregame because it's kind of like Marco's thing. Marco actually, I think, started it with Scott Spreitzer, though, who left Wager Talk and went over to Doc Sports, I think. And I haven't really heard much from him. I don't follow the Doc Sports guy, so I don't know. I assume he's still over there now. But, yeah, Wager Talk, I like a couple of those guys. I like Brian Power at Wager Talk as well. He does a lot of situational-ish stuff as well, so I agree with him fairly often as well. And then Steve Merrill, even though he's a little bit more of a numbers guy, like relies on like his simulations a lot, I kind of like his analysis as well. So those are the guys that I mostly listen to. Nate, you're doing some soccer as well. I don't know anything about soccer, man. You like Matt Humans, is it Veasan? Yeah. I haven't really listened to much of him, but yeah, Veasan is also where Gil Alexander is now. All right, and before I get out of here, I will talk about that Pittsburgh game. I don't even remember what my opinions were on this one. NC State at Pittsburgh. NC State, they're coming out of a bye, I think, right? So immediately I kind of start leaning towards NC State because they're coming out of a bye, and they went into the bye on a bad note. They lost to Notre Dame. They got blown out by Notre Dame. Seems like a decent spot for NC State to kind of bounce back after going into the bye on a bad note. Usually use that bye to fix things. Pitt, they played last week, and they're rolling right now. I mean, they got that road win where I think they looked better than they actually were. So, and they're using Heinzschel at quarterback, who he really didn't even do well against Syracuse last week. He only had 140 yards through the air, and they didn't really have any good rushing performances either. So it's really ridiculous that Pitt was able to cover that number and beat us last week with basically no offense in that game from Pitt. Just horrible. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think NC State is the right side, although it looks like you could have gotten maybe the full touchdown. It looks like the line dropped from 9.5 to 6.5 in this one. 50% of tickets, 79% of the cash coming in at NC State. So the money is agreeing with NC State. I would have much preferred taking 7, though, on NC State rather than the 6.5, though. Getting the full touchdown there. It's probably not going to come back. But, yeah, generally I do agree with the NC State side in that one. You like the guys at Wager Talk? Yeah, I see a lot of guys out there just shitting on Wager Talk, too, and saying that these guys are, like, I don't know, scammers because they're touts and they only put up their last 20. Like, they're not transparent because they only, like, if you go to one of their pages, they only put up their last, like, 20 plays. But I don't know, man. I mean, the only, like, plays that I've actually, like, purchased from them or when I get like they sometimes give you like coupons and stuff and whatever, so I've used some of those and gotten some plays and it's worked out pretty well for me with those. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I haven't really been like an actual like paying customer really there, so I don't really know like that aspect of it. But I mean, I like the guys. I think their free analysis they give out is actually really good. So, and I've met a couple of the guys in person too. Well, a couple of the gentlemen and ladies. Last year, they were out in the Boston area for March Madness for the Final Four. So I met Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas. She likes to keep people guessing what her height is, by the way. So I won't give away what her height is, although my guess was inaccurate. I was wrong about what her height is. Seeing her in person, I got to talk to her. She definitely drinks a lot, which I think that is well known. She drinks a lot and she talks a lot. And she talks a lot about her dogs, but that's fine. It's a fun time. And I got to talk to Joe Ranieri. He was there. hilarious dude. I love talking to that guy, man. He's fun. I like talking to him, and I talked to Chris Thurston. Is that his name as well? CT. He's from the Boston area, so I got to talk to him as well. Yeah, so I met those three guys at that thing last year. But Joe was my favorite one to hang out with, though. Like, I just think I vibed with him more so. Yeah, Marco, the situational spot. Yeah, he does the whatever it is, the deli show, the sandwich spot. And, dude, my plays, I already had decided pretty much on these plays before I watched his show. And I'm on 3 of his 4 college football plays he gave out on that show this week. I'm on them. That's not always the case. I think this is the most in alignment with that show that I've been with him. Usually I'll have like maybe one in agreement with him that I actually give out as a play. I usually agree with almost all of them that he gives out, but usually my like actual plays that I give out that align with his show there will only be like 1 or maybe 2 of them. This week we got 3, and I think I'm actually going to be on his NFL one too, which I was already planning on doing. I'm going to I just use him as kind of like a confirmation sometimes, like, oh yeah, I agree with that, but I still do my own thing, my own handicapping, my own thinking on it. But thanks, guys, for hanging out. Another 2-hour show. We're going to get it in under the wire, man. Let's get it under right now. Once again, my plays: Oklahoma -5, Wake Forest +3.5, Iowa State -2.5, Missouri +3, and South Carolina +11.5. Let's get a winning day tomorrow, man. Let's keep this going. I'll be back in the morning because we're going to have, I think, baseball, hockey, and NBA all happening tomorrow. So mostly hockey. Usually there's a lot of hockey on Saturday, so we'll likely have some other plays there with those. I got to get out of here. I got to do Instagram videos on these plays too and get the audio out. Man, I should get paid more for this. I should just be back to actual betting, man, because, yeah, I mean, what am I doing? Like, I should have just, when I got fired, I should have just transitioned to just betting more money full time, because I've been doing this for like 18 years, so I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I was like, I can't take the risk anymore. You know, I can't fund it. I don't know. Yeah, the Avalanche are coming to Boston. I'm not going to the game, but yeah, I mean, Bruins, man, the Bruins are an absolute mess. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to say about that, but yeah, I think that game might be tomorrow. I'm going to get out of here for now. I got to get some sleep as well. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Saab, Nate, I appreciate it, man. You guys are the regulars. We had Brittany early in the show complimenting my uke. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it for sure. Yeah, check everything out that I do, man. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Give me more stuff here. You know, let's get these subscribers up, especially because I'm so fucking hot right now. Let's go, man. Everybody's going to want this. I'm giving out gold. It's just very long-winded. Yeah, and then I'm on the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple. Give me a good review over there. That helps as well. Listening on there helps me out as well. The numbers keep going up, so that's good. They're not big, but they're going up. Covered in Uke is the Uke channel on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. Got to get my recent cover up there, the 30 Seconds to Mars. Got to get the Spotify feed updated. I know I'm like 4 or so covers behind on that one. I got to keep doing it. Patreon.com/LearnToToad if you want that Spotify feed and prioritize requests, which Charles took advantage of. Charles is avoiding me tonight, though, because he replied to me on Instagram, and I was very furious about the Celtics loss. I'm a little bit less furious with the fact that I went 3-1 tonight, though, but the Celtics are just infuriating me. I'm just very, very sad about it. Charles, hopefully he'll be back tomorrow morning. Charles, I apologize. I'm an ass sometimes. I just said, don't talk to me right now is what I said. So, you know, I mean, that's just, yeah, I go into a hole when I'm losing, man. I don't want to talk to anybody. That's going to do it for now. I appreciate it, guys. I'll be back in the morning. Peace.